What's up, everybody? The Fresh Out team recently visited Idaho State Prison, and we were able to get some phenomenal footage behind the wall with inmates doing time, trying to change their lives. They have a podcast, they have a recording studio in there, and they also have some editing equipment that they're utilizing to create job skills that will help these people be employable in the future. We would like to help these gentlemen update their equipment so that they can further their career goals and their ambitions with recording, editing, and filming. Therefore, we're donating $500, and our goal is to raise $1,500 so that we can help provide new equipment. You can donate by clicking the link in the description and sending money to the PayPal so that we can help these people continue to pursue their goals and dreams. You know, people always asking us about rehabilitation. Well, this is one of the probably the most progressive rehabilitation programs I've seen behind bars that actually gives people an opportunity for positive change and to create self-value. Therefore, if you want to continue to support and help these people in Idaho State Prison pursue their dreams, donate and become part of the movement with Fresh Out, changing lives. What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down with Fresh Out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button, and share this channel, man. We doing big things over here, and I'm here with my man, Travis Ritchie. And he's the one who's offered us this opportunity to come to Boise State Prison in Idaho and do what we're doing right now. So I'm gonna introduce him and let him tell his story, man, because this guy has done some amazing things and really opened up some opportunities for us to reach some people that we couldn't normally reach. Travis, man, thanks for being on the show and giving us this opportunity to come here to the prison and tell a little bit about where you're from and some of your background so that people can know a little bit about you.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine, to be honest. I think what you and Anthony are doing is incredible. And I think a lot of people don't maybe either recognize or give you the decade of constant forward momentum that you've put into this. I think a lot of people, when they want to get out, they think it's a flash in the pan, or they've got an idea, they want to be the next Joe Rogan. You guys have meticulously maintained this pace for years after years. And so I'm just grateful to be able to connect with you and help other people. I think that's the wavelength that we're both on. Unfortunately, I like to say fortunately, what brought us here is prison. I wasn't a street guy growing up. I wasn't, a gangbanger or a drug dealer. Still to this very day, I've never done a drug a day in my life. For me, I was a financial guy and spent the first half of my life in the financial services industry and was doing very well. At the age of 25, I controlled a hedge fund that had $10 million publicly managed. And due to a regulatory oversight in the state of Arizona, they spent about 6.5 years in indicting me and charging me with what they term transactions of an unregistered securities dealer or salesman, if you can imagine. It's kind of wild.
And how did you even manage to get into that area? Because, getting into finance, it's not like that's something, a kid that says, hey, I want to get into, trading stocks and stuff like that. I remember, because, the first time I've ever seen anybody trade a stock, 1987, my teacher who taught Algebra 2, he brought one of those brick phones in.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the stock market, like in between, like teaching a lesson. And we were sitting there, we're in the hood, like, he never heard we never heard anybody talk about stocks at home. And he did a trade and he called and he was calling in the morning because they were on 3-hour difference. And he named the symbol and I would like to, buy X amount of blah, blah, blah. And he hung up the phone and we're like, damn, this shit is crazy, man. What did he, and he was talking, but it was above our heads. It was so above our heads. How were you able to grasp getting into that sector, that employment field? What was your influence?
Yeah, good question. So I've loved numbers ever since I was little. Numbers to me were just real power. I never really was an emotional individual. I just figured everything was kind of numbers and sequences, and if I could add them up or subtract them, I could figure it out. And so I'll give you an example. So give me a word. Just pick a random word. Any word.
Let's just say.
In full disclosure, we didn't talk about this before.
Dow Jones.
Okay, Dow Jones. 2 words, right? So what I would do is in my head, I would resort that alphabetically. Okay? So DEJNOOSW. D is 4, 5 is E. See where I'm going? Right? And so totally. Yeah. So any word, any words that you would give me, to me, it just became numbers, right? You run with your first name. You rewind it. ACMRUS. So you've got 1, 3, 13, 19. S is 20. So I was able to to me, it was just a number, and it was almost like a psychosis.
Yeah, that's like a gift.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And so I could take those numbers and go, okay, unemotionally, let's take this individual company. And where was this company going? Where was this company coming from? What were the opportunities? What were the advantages? And I like to look deeper, like uncover the onion. And so I would say everybody looks at Apple or for a phone, right? But there's a company out there that creates the screen that your finger can touch. And then there's a company out there that creates the product to move the screen to the company that creates the product for Apple. So it was to me, it was just this real crazy game. I didn't really need to focus on Apple. I don't have $1,200 to invest in a stock. But what I do is I can figure Apple's probably not going anywhere. The new iPhone comes out when? Christmas time. What's going to pop when Apple pops? The screen guy. What's going to, right? And so to me, it was just this psychotic energy that I put to good work. So I channeled that energy and did fairly well in school. I come from a broken household, and so a single mom. She delivered pizzas when we were growing up to make sure that me and my 3 sisters were able to go to school. And the only way that I knew I could make it was to get a scholarship. So I did well, got a scholarship, went and got my master's degree in finance. And started writing letters back in the day before Twitter. I know some of you don't know those days. Where you'd have to write a letter to an individual that you wanted to work for. And so I started writing letters to these individuals that I wanted to work for, these big hedge fund managers. And so I had some connections, through my faith and my religion and, through friends of friends, and got an internship and did pretty well on that internship. And then from there, had a gentleman contact me who ran a very large hedge fund. At the time, it was $11 billion under management, and today it's over $20 billion. In Third Point Capital, And so we spent a lot of time together, and he was like my mentor.
So that mentor, that influence, it's left. I would imagine it left a life-lasting impression. Having that, I briefly just seen a little bit of it when I worked for an investment place, but I didn't have that constantly to where it just overwhelmed everything else. Which is, like you said, having that, it made a big difference. And so from that, where did that take your financial career once you got that type of influence?
Yeah, the sky was the limit, really. So when, in the glory days of Wall Street, nobody drove to work, nobody really did anything except for work. And when you would walk in, they would make sure that every bit of your day was covered. So if you were stressed out about picking up the dry cleaning, they would make sure someone picked up your dry cleaning. If you had to go get groceries for the family, they'd make sure someone got the groceries. Your sole focus was to produce profitability. That's it.
Be in front of that computer.
100%. And so there's actually a show called Billions.
Yep. I've seen Billions. Yep.
Billions is based on a true story.
Yeah.
Based on a true story.
But before Billions, what the guys at my financial job told me to read was, what is it called? At the Gate. Barbarians at the Gate. Michael Milken and
Milken.
yeah.
He did prison time.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they were what they called them back then. They were was it junk bonds or were they?
Michael Milken was a junk bond king.
Yeah. And they were making so much money. But I remember reading that book. I'm like, oh man, these dudes, man, they're killing it. But I didn't know anything about. I was just reading. It was like a fantasy. The closest thing to Wall Street, the movie.
Yes. Yeah. Gordon Gekko and all the fun stuff. Yeah. And so when you watch that show Billions, so that gal, based on that true story, that the gal that's kind of the therapist there.
Yes.
She's a real woman. Her name's Denise Scholl. She's a very dear friend of mine. She'll probably watch this. She actually now lives in Idaho.
Oh, wow.
Moved there from New York, I think about a year or so ago. But a fantastic woman, fantastic human. And her job was to make sure that these traders were dialed. And so she literally, if you read between the lines who she worked for and the gentleman, you can Google it and figure it out. I'm not going to name drop. But literally, she was, partly responsible for billions of dollars a day that would go and transact and make sure that this second girlfriend wasn't stressing you out and this house on Long Island wasn't stressing you out. Her focus was make sure that your mind was right. Yeah. So they built a whole show around that. And all of that stuff, I was 25 years old. I had 10 million under management, public record. And so when you're sitting there and you sit back now, a decade plus later, you sit back now, nobody cared that you had that under management because that was normal.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was the 100 million mark. That's when you were actually somebody.
Yeah.
And so it really kind of messed with your psyche, what the level of success you could obtain as a young man. Because I came from a broken household. We lived in our van, we were on food stamps. Mom did the best she could to create a good life for us. Fast forward to, here I am with as many vehicles as I wanted, with access and resources, taking my wife on trips around the world. So it really skews your perspective and your vision. You kind of think you're untouchable for a little while.
But that goes back to what we talked about earlier as far as what becomes your norm. Mm-hmm. Like where you said 25 million, this guy's 100 million, that's his norm. I can recall when I lived in Huntington, and I'm a kid. I'm out there by default because my mom got married. My stepdad was stationed in Long Beach. We lived in Huntington, but really by Westminster on the border.
Okay.
So I went to the school by Marina by default.
Okay.
But I remember this kid pulling up to school in a 911 slant nose turbo. His dad like pulling up. I'm like, who is this kid?
Right.
He's getting out. He's got a bunch of strawberries. He had his own strawberry field. His dad had bought him some acres before they developed out there, and he used to drop off strawberries to the faculty.
Wow.
And they're like, I'm like, dude, but that's his normal.
Yes.
In high school, driving a 911 slant nose turbo. Back then that was the shit. So it's crazy, like you said, when you put things in perspective.
Yeah.
And with some people's normal is, oh my God, I'm just I'm living in this little apartment. Where the other guy's like, dude, I got 5 houses. I'm traveling this and that. And it's all about what your perception is.
Yeah, and your belief systems. And so when I, much like you, when you tell the story and the narrative and the mindset, when I get to go back in prison and I get to tell these guys, the only beliefs that you have, that you hold in your head, that's the only limits that you have in this world.
That's right.
That's it.
So from you managing that 25 million, how did it eventually lead to you having your interaction with the feds?
Yeah, good question. So I got 3 million of that 10 million was attributed from a fund manager in the state of Arizona. And the state of Arizona has a regulatory environment that the state doesn't have to recognize the feds. So let me break that down super simple in today's world. Marijuana, I can buy it in Oregon, I can't bring it to Idaho. I can purchase it in Colorado, I can't take it to Arizona, right? So the feds can still arrest us for marijuana today, right? So the same thing with the securities. So a lot of guys who go, they'll get a securities license, they'll have a Series 6, a 7, a 24, a 42, whatever. But then other guys will register exempt. So you have what's called a Reg D offering, a Reg D Rule 504, 505, 506. They register with the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm exempt from registration from the state, okay? I registered exempt with the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reg D Rule 504. All of the states I registered with, still public record to this day, it's out there on Edgar. And the state of Arizona said, no, we don't like how this smells. We're not getting our tax money. We're not getting our tax dollars. Yeah. That fund was open from 2006 Q4 to 2007 Q3, so about 8 or 9 months that $3 million was raised. Money was closed, fund was returned, life went on. This was the time, to put it in perspective for folks, of the Great Recession. We had 04, 05, 06, everybody's eating fat, right? Just like we are right now, folks, right? You heard it here first on Big Herc 916, this shit is gonna crash. You look back at 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 04, 05, 06, 07. Like, these are all patterns. This is not us pontificating. And so the financial services world, we were kind of like the devil. We had lost a lot of people's IRAs, 401ks, stock market had crashed. People lost houses. People don't like to take accountability. I know you're surprised to hear that. They don't want to take accountability for their actions.
That's right.
Oh, no, I wanted 30%, so I purchased that Costa Rican junk bond. No, he's a devil, not me, right? Yeah. So it was in that vein as well. And so when the state of Arizona came knocking, they indicted me on these charges, got a book this big, and first time I'd ever been in the system, around the system, near the system, locked up, any of that type of stuff. It was foreign to me. And so I sat down with all of them, the Corporation Commission from Arizona, the FBI, and the Securities and Exchange Commission at Applebee's. And they weren't allowed to buy my meal. I wasn't allowed to buy their meal, and so we went through the books, back, forth, month after month, year after year. I got a clean bill of health from the feds. Letter on my behalf from the gentleman at the FBI, SEC, no fraud, no misappropriation. State of Arizona has anything over $99,000 felony. I had 66 $99,000 or more transactions in the state of Arizona that we didn't pay taxes on. So I was looking at 2 to 5 years on each count, and so their original agreement for me was 66 years. That was their first plea deal they came to me with. Non-violent, non-repetitive, first time.
Wow. And the first one's always the craziest one. That's to shake you up.
Boy.
Yeah, that shakes you up a little bit, like, oh, boy. Man, okay, what can we talk about?
I thought we had a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I had a real problem.
Yeah.
I thought we had a misunderstanding. I was like, this can't be real life.
But you were able actually to fight this on the street, which was a big, big help.
Bro, I fought this for almost 6 years. Wow. It was. I brought in some of the best attorneys on the planet. Had a great support system with my wife, family, and fought it. We went through lawyers, and not ours, attorney generals and judges, and it was one thing after another. And you're spending $20,000 or $30,000 a month on legal fees.
And for people who don't know, the government got unlimited resources.
Unlimited.
Dude, they will drain whatever they can keep spending. And like you said, the longer you're fighting it, the more you're spending.
You're in a blender. I talked to this gentleman one time, and he said, you're just in the blender. That's what you don't understand. The more you turn it on, we're just going to keep spinning.
Yeah.
Right? We're just going to keep chopping it up. And it didn't matter that I remember the first kid that I sat down with. I said he was a kid because he just graduated. He was part of the state's, prosecution team. And we get in the elevator with him. I'll never forget this. We get in the elevator with him to go have like, a conversation, pre-trial conference type of thing. And I remember him, he looked down and he said, "You pulled up in a Jaguar too." I went, "Whoa. Interesting. This is deeper. This is deeper." We were about the same age.
Yeah.
And so I got out, and so I afterwards I said to my attorney, I said, "Did you catch that?" And she looked at me and she said, "Yeah, you're a target."
Yeah.
I said, "I got it. Okay." And so it was very interesting. It was from that point forward, that perspective that you talked about. When we were younger, it was like you wanted to shop at Whole Foods, you wanted to look nice, you wanted to work out and take care of your body, you wanted to drive a nice car, you wanted all of these things, some for the ego and some for the position in life, but more so because guys like us that came from nothing, we busted our ass to get here.
That's right, yeah.
And now that I got here, now I have this individual on the other side of the fence hating on me because I am here. Because he took a job at $47,000 and I didn't.
Yeah.
He's upset.
And you're the same age.
Same age. Never forget that moment in the elevator. And I thought, whoa, this is going to be rough. And that went on for years, man. Like I said, I fought it. This is a case from 2006. And I didn't even go into prison until 2012. I fought it, and a lot of guys who are listening, gals listening to this, and you know this firsthand, it's hard to articulate to folks when you have fought something like that for so long. I still have my wife, she's pregnant, I still have my businesses, right? One of the things I was telling you and Anthony last night at dinner, like one of the things when the feds opened up my books, it was public record what my returns were. And so now when people were like, wait a minute, this dude's getting 20 points a year? Wait a minute, I was getting phone calls like, hey, can you take 100K? Hey, can you take 300K? Hey, can you take 500K? It was the craziest. One guy coined it my sex tape, right? Now everybody knows what you look like naked.
Yeah.
Now it's time to make money off of it,
Yeah.
right? So it was a crazy time because I'm still building a business. I'm still young, in my early 20s. I'm still trying to figure out life. And I'm fighting the government for 6.5 years. I was exhausted on every front, man. Every single front, mental, physical, emotional, financial, spiritual. I was exhausted. I remember sitting on the floor one night with my wife just in absolute tears. And I said, whatever's coming can't be this bad. So I called up my attorney and I'm like, let's just settle. Let's figure this out. I could have already been done with this.
Yeah.
And
Past it.
right, let's move on with this. And so my wife and I prayed about it, thought about it, talked about it. That's what we did. We went in around Thanksgiving time of 11, and my attorney argued, state argued, and the judge said, we'll give you some time. We'll give you some time. I'll think about this for a little while. My attorney then stepped up and said, can we postpone this till January? And the judge said, yeah. I walked out and I said, why are we postponing this again? And she looked at me in the street and she said, because I want you to spend the holidays with your family. Oof. That was the turning point for me. So, as you know, when you have this January date, you don't really spend the best of times with your family because it's in the back of your mind. But we walked into that January date, and that same judge was there, January 20 of 12, and she said, I'm going to make an example out of you, young man. I'm going to sentence you to 2 years, Department of Corrections. Poof. Life, as you know, it's over. I parked on the street. I pulled up with my wife that day. We parked on the street, put the coins in the meter because I was going to be out in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Mamma mia. And there I was for the first time in my life, handcuffed, standing at that podium, and it all kind of went fuzzy. It all kind of went black, kind of passed out, right? That moment of like, you got to be kidding me. I remember my attorney grabbed my hand, and she said, it's going to be all right. The first thing out of my mouth was, when am I going to be able to see my son? At this point, he was like a couple months old. And I came to when that handcuff was cutting my wrist bone.
I don't know about that. Yeah, them cuffs, bro.
And that was it, man. We looked across the courtroom, told Melissa, I'll be all right, love you. It was game time from that point forward.
So after, you got arrested there, but I mean, at least the circumstances allowed you to at least have the holidays following, your actual arrest. I mean, did they send you to a camp or what happened with that?
Went through intake and spent, I would say, if I remember back, about a week going through intake, week to 10 days, through that terrible downtown county.
You're sitting in a cold tank.
Oh, man.
Waiting there, and it's like they got the AC blowing.
Yep. I showed up in a suit that day. So me and my dumb ass, I'm the only one in a suit going tank to tank to tank, right? This crackhead's falling out. This heroin addict's vomiting. Bro, there I am on the concrete, me in my blue suit. Couldn't be more out of touch with reality, right?
They're looking at you like, who's this dude?
Right. Funny you say that. I'll tell you a funny story I don't share with almost anybody. So when I got that card, that stupid little 3x5 note card that you bring in with your charge on it, so my charge reads, transactions of an unregistered securities dealer or salesman, right? It's this long. But on that card, that 3x5 card, it says TRNSOUNRGDLRSL. So door opens up, right? As they're taking I like to say they take your values and your belief system as you go through county, right? So like on day 3, door opens up and there's 2 guys come out and they're like, hey, pull me into the room. And they go like, so like, what's the story? Who do you work with? I'm like, I work for myself. I'm an entrepreneur, and right? They're like, no, man, cut the shit. Who do you work for? I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about here. And literally, he's got my note card. He said, I worked here 33 years. I've never seen this a day in my life. I'm like,
this is to CIA agent.
Right? I'm like, I don't know what's going on. If this is this, where's Wayne Brady?
Yeah.
Right? Is this a joke? Am I going home now? Right? Man. And I'm like, guys, this is for real. This is real life. I don't know what you're talking about. So I had to tell him the entire story, the whole story. And he's back there. 40 minutes later, he's like, I'll be damned. Boy, you got fucked. That was what he said. He's like, all right, man, we're gonna take some photos now.
Yeah.
That was it. I was like, golly, this is crazy town. So you go through that process, right? To take your photos, bing, bang, boom. And then it was 21 days that I sat in that, that cell before they move you to the prison yard. And, and no phone calls, no lights, straight up ridiculous. And then moved to a level 3 yard. I was only on that level 3 yard until they classified me. Once they classified me, and
Got the hell out of there.
yeah, I went to I believe it was like the lowest level, is a level 2 yard, former Motel 6, and that was where I got off the yard every day. So they let me off the yard because of my degree, and so I went to a community college. And was part of the education program at the community college that all of the other 4 yards went to and met at.
Wow.
And so here I am teaching Business 101 course, in full orange.
Hey, take notice. You see what an education does?
Yeah.
Even when you get in trouble, there's Motel 6 was the institution.
Bro, I knock on wood every day. I didn't, right? I don't, and I say this openly with my story. I didn't do a lot of time. I didn't do a number of years. For me in my life, in my walk, in my purpose on this earth, I wasn't meant to do a lot of time. I was meant to go and see what that was like, to meet those individuals and to understand why my God-given resources were able to build a bridge for those people who are doing a lot of time.
And how do you get involved with the prison system now, where you can bring people like myself into these institutions and offer this type of interaction?
Man. So when I very first started, while I was inside, I wanted to fix one thing. I wanted to fix credit scores. That was it. So with these individuals, I knew that when they get out, their credit score, their FICO score. Most people, let me rewind. Most people don't even know what a FICO score is. A credit score, you hear FICO all the time. It's an acronym. It stands for Fair, Isaac and Company. It's 2 dudes out of San Francisco who literally started a company 60 years ago, and now the U.S. uses it to give us a score, a credit score, a FICO score from 500 to 800, plus or minus. The higher that score is, the higher credit worthy you are, the lower interest rates, the better off you are to get loans and things. When these cats get out, they need a job, satisfy conditions. They need a vehicle to, pick up the baby, drive the baby mama, go to whatever it is, right? They go to some buy here, pay here lot at a 24% interest rate. They get a 1964 Saturn, $800 a month with a battery choker on it, and they do things they shouldn't do because they got a car payment that they shouldn't have. And I said, you know what? I could fix that. Twice a year, all 3 bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, they give you credit score for free. For free. Write to them, email to them, call them up, doesn't matter. So that's why I started. I said, if you guys can get out with a 620, a 640, a 680, a 700, a 720 credit score, you could go down and get a Honda Accord on lease. I could change that. That's where it started. So fast forward, we've been in that space, since 2013. And fortunate for me, much like yourself, you can articulate a vision. You can sit down with somebody, DOC, BOP, warden, doesn't matter, and say, you know what, I'm here to change lives. This is why my program, like the program that you and Ant are creating, will change lives. When you can prove efficacy of a program that gets instilled in a prison and these guys come out and don't return, people start to notice, like, what's that about? What is that? And so my financial literacy course is where we started and got in deeper with the tablet system. Fortunately, one of my close friends and investors is one of the original tablet providers who started that company, JPay. Got involved in the tablet system and started developing content and curriculum that I felt was real. Real, right? You know the showgrams, I know the showgrams. Right. I wanted these cats to go, if I leave with Travis's finance book, I can open a bank account, increase my credit score, start a business. I got this. It wasn't a spiral-bound 1964 Kinko's pamphlet of like, hey, Herc, here's where the bus line is. Good luck, homie.
Yeah.
That's not reentry. Reentry to me started from day one, not from 30 days, 60 days to the gate. So I wanted to change that narrative, and I thought I've got a lot of resources. Fortunately, I got a lot of friends who have resources. So my best friend's an attorney, and he's put together a legal course. His best friend is a real estate mogul. He put together a real estate course. So now I teach guys, you want to get involved in real estate? You don't need a real estate license. You can wholesale, you can flip, you can bring deals to these guys, you can do hard money, you can do a myriad of things in any sector, and you speak about this all the time, both in private and in public. The Fivers of the world, the Instagrams of the world, the YouTubes of the world, the technology that we have at our fingertips, if we're using it to swipe left and right and try to get laid, you're way off. You're way off. Yeah. If you're not fresh out of the joint and not using Facebook Marketplace as the new yard sale to make money on a Saturday and a Sunday, you're not using Facebook properly. No. If you haven't set up a LinkedIn account with a professional photo, with a beautiful tagline, and started networking with all 5,000 people that are in your zip code, add friend, add friend, add friend, add friend, and each day adding a little piece of value, you're not using LinkedIn right. But that's where I wanted to take my courses to, real stuff.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of guys, they don't even know that all these resources are at their disposal. And it's funny, like you said about the credit. I remember when I was at Herlong, we used to help guys with their credit, like send us in, and we would do they have stuff, and we do refusal without honor letters, and we send it, and we get it notarized. And so we were helping guys go in, and they're like they're always like, Herc, man, what are you guys doing all these notaries for? But once we get a notary default, we would take that letter, and it becomes actually public record, because a notary, if you don't respond to it, it becomes public record, and it's actually a judgment. We would take that judgment, send it back to the credit thing. They would get a new report. It's off of there, so we were helping guys remove certain things from their credit, delinquent credit. So that was our angle, because we were doing the old school. We didn't have the past, so we were doing letters, and I'd have, I remember the lieutenant coming in my thing. He looked around and he searched our cell for right when they popped the door for Chow, he came in there, get out the fucking cell, and he searched. We missed Chow because of that, and he's like, man, shut your mouth, don't say nothing. I know you're running a legal thing up here, blah blah blah. Just leave my seals alone. Okay, man, all right. And he shut the door, and I'm like, damn, because we had laundry bags full of stuff where we were helping people, and we had files on different we were helping guys get their stuff together, and we would do the manila envelopes and just send us in. Go get a notary, send us in, and we were helping people like this. So it's funny you say that, because we were doing something similar. But yeah, man, it's having resources and being able to. What you're doing is preparing people, and I tell people all the time, you can't wait till the last 6 months of your bid to get ready. No. You got to be ready that if they called you to R&D, could you go out there and make something happen? Mm-hmm. That's R&D. What do you mean? I'm watching the BET, man. It's
high as a kite.
Dude,
waiting for my soup to cook.
Yeah, I'm in the microwave right now. I'm in line. Mm-hmm. You got to be ready at any given time to get out there and make it happen.
Yep.
So it starts early, but what you're doing, man, is just is something that these guys definitely is valuable and they need, and I think it's a service that it for sure cuts all that recidivism. Yeah. By 2/3, if not almost, completely giving you an opportunity.
But you think about it, right? So guys like you and I, we're hunters. We eat what we kill, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so a lot of guys that have done time are in that same vein, right? We don't really we'll go and as a condition of parole get a job, but we don't want to work this job forever, right?
Yeah.
So we're hunter-gatherers, we eat what we kill. So what I realized was if you have this guy who's a provider, typically, innately, like in his veins, right? And you give him a purpose while he's inside, he's going to move towards that purpose when he's outside, right? Yeah. So the narrative changes. He's outside because of his purpose. He's not outside because he's allowed out. And you see a lot of these dudes that are out physically, and you know this, but are inside mentally.
That's right. Yeah. The mental, I told them, is always the biggest thing about being free. Because there are people like on the street who aren't free.
Bro.
They're free on the street physically, but mentally, and they never done prison time, but they're mentally locked up.
The worst prisons in America are not concrete and steel. The worst prisons in America are the ones that you create in your mind.
Yeah.
I had this, how do I say this politically correct in case they're watching? I had this conversation with my wife about some people that we know. and they do not want to be married. They're married for certain reasons. And when I was going through, I remember sitting at my table with my wife, 06, 07, indicted. And I remember telling my wife, that's a life sentence. What this couple's going through right here, yes, that's a life sentence. Mine's going to go away. Fast forward now, whatever, 12 years later, 13 years, however many years, 14, I don't even know what year we're in. We've been in COVID 19 years, right? But fast forward all these years later, same couple, miserable as can be. Miserable. Different beds, different lives, different everything. Boyfriend, girlfriend. One's got a job because they can't stand to be at home. And I tell my wife, I did 15 months. Happiest clam I know. This right here is a life sentence. And so to your point, so many dudes that we know are still outside, locked up mentally. How many times do you hear this? I miss my cell.
You know what? I was in 24-hour gym working out one time, and I'm washing my hands after I go to the bathroom, and this dude's like, "Yeah, man, I need a little break. I should go to if I went to the county, you're in the county, man." And I'm looking at the dude, a year in the I'm looking at I didn't say nothing, but I'm thinking to myself, dude, you've never been to count. What are you talking about? Like in my mind, that's how stupid you are.
Yeah.
You're in the county, man. Get away for a little while, blah blah blah. I'm like, what about a vacation?
Yeah,
what about going to the beach? I mean,
a
year. I mean, just the mentality. But like you said, some of these people are so ignorant to what they're capable and what their perception is that's what they'll entertain, and they'll put that energy into the world.
Oh, totally. And then to glorify it, I think the biggest thing with one of the biggest things with your show is that you don't glorify this. This is an L. Like we took this L. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like. So many of these guys out there are talking about what I did and who I was, and you nailed us on the head last night. You're like, nobody cares about what you did on the yard. Nobody cares who you were on the yard. Nobody.
No.
So it really is an interesting perspective. So I think one of the things that there's this guy out there, Brad Lee, big name, big Instagram type name, right? He talks about, he did time like in 99. But he talks about, he goes, hey, people will always ask me, when you were homeless in Malibu, what was it like to be at rock bottom? And he said, rock bottom? I lived on the beach. I got food from street vendors. I showered at the gym. Yeah. Rock bottom? Yeah. I lived in Malibu. Yeah. Right? And that's that power of perspective you're talking about. Yeah, man. It's like you got to change that narrative, We are better than glorifying this nonsense. We went here, we spent time here. We learn from this. We take this mess. We turn it into a message. We help others.
That's right. What message would you like to leave our viewers with as far as what you got going on and how they can find out what you're doing?
I mean, what we're doing. If you've got a loved one inside, if you've got a loved one, a family member, anybody inside, and you'd like for them to participate in a program or just have information and knowledge that could benefit them, that's at accomplishventures.org. And then if you're on the outside and you're looking for a community, whether you've been incarcerated or not, we focus on mental, physical, spiritual, and financial pillars, and that's at convictedlife.com. And, our goal, what I would like to leave with the people is very simple. Two things. Number one, the narrative that zebras can't change their stripes and cheetahs can't change their spots has been fed to us, and it's BS. Yes, it is. Because we are not jungle animals. We are human beings. We are put on this earth for a purpose, and that purpose often entails failure. I want to change the narrative around failure, and I want you to understand that the only way you get successful is by failing. The only way that you bake a cake is with sugar and flour. Failure is actually a recipe for success. So if I see you on Instagram on top of the mountain with 3 filters on your face and a BMW and a six-pack talking about I landed here, I know you're a liar.
Yeah.
I know you're a liar.
Yeah.
If I don't see your hustle and your grit and your salty knuckles and your busted fingernails and your tears every 30 days because how tough it is out here, that's the real shit. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows, and you know this, Instagram is not reality.
No.
Failure is part of the recipe to success, and people can change, and we're living proof.
And we'll have all the links in the description for all the contact information. And man, Travis, it's just been a blessing coming out here, interacting with you, meeting all these great gentlemen, and having the opportunity to actually share this with our audience, man. I mean, I hope a lot of you guys take a lot of game from this and apply it in your lives, and know that, like you said, man, it's all about perception and how you see yourself. So
You're going to bless so many lives, brother.
hey, man, thank you.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Big Herc 916, fresh out with Travis Ritchie.